Harry Potter is my favorite fantasy book series. Others might prefer The Lord of the Rings, but I'll take The Boy Who Lived over Bilbo Baggins any day. Sorry, Bilbo. There's just something awesome about the wizarding world that I love to read about, and there's no doubt that other people have the same feeling. In 2001, Warner Brothers released a movie adaptation of the first book, and with every family-friendly movie, there has to be a video game tie-in. So, in 2001, as the movie was coming out, Electronic Arts and several developers were tasked with creating Harry Potter video games over the years. So let's have a look at the first video game I ever played, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. AKA Philosopher's Stone. Dang it, America! The game starts out with a narrated slideshow, horribly explaining the story of Harry Potter. And the voice acting is kind of...
Gryffindor!
hilarious. Some of the voice actors sound okay, but the line delivery is almost always horrible. Dumbledore sounds like he's always choking, and Hermione sounds like some random little girl reading a book out loud. And speaking of audio, how's the music? It's great. Each song fits the area you're in. I will never forget the music that plays in the grounds. It's so relaxing. Fun fact, the game's music was actually composed by Jeremy Soule, the composer of many of the Elder Scrolls games. Pretty cool, huh? The graphics in this game are not very good for 2001. The most notable problem is the lack of lip movement during dialogue. Maybe this is where the idea for Potter Puppet Pals came from. The models aren't very detailed or even accurate to what the actors look like, and the same goes for the textures. Like, just look at Hagrid. That is hideous. The game also takes place mostly within Hogwarts, so many textures are reused over and over with little variety. When the game actually starts, you meet up with Ron, and he asks if Harry remembers him from the Hogwarts Express. How about this? Let's add a plot hole counter down here. We then go and meet up with Ron's twin brothers, Fred and George, who offer to give us a tutorial. Hey! Who is that?
That's Piers, the poltergeist.
What?
That's Piers, the poltergeist.
This is actually really cool, because it proves that at least the writers have read the book. There are actually a few scenes in the game from the book that didn't make it into the movie, which is pretty cool. Fred and George then introduce you to the game's collectibles. Bertie Bott's every flavored beans, famous witches and wizards cards, and chocolate frogs. The beans aren't all that useful. Fred and George will show up at several points asking for 25 beans for...
We need the beans for some experiments.
something. If you give them to them, you get a famous witches and wizards cards. The wizard cards are also pretty useless, as all they really do is tell you information on the famous people in the wizarding world. If you manage to collect all 24 cards in the game, as well as 250 beans, you will get a special Harry Potter card at the end, but that's it. The most useful item in the game is chocolate frogs, which will increase your health, but even then, there aren't that many enemies in the game, so even the chocolate frogs don't matter much. You then run into Draco Malfoy, who you apparently haven't met yet, and he's a total jerk to Harry. What did I even do? We haven't even met yet. You then see Hermione over here, who says that we met on the Hogwarts Express. And she takes you into your Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson. But if you're careful, you can lock her out. That's what you get for making plot holes, Hermione. You then learn your first spell from the totally not the main antagonist teacher, Professor Quirrell. You learn Flipendo, a spell so ambiguous that you can do basically anything with it. You learn spells by tracing a pattern on the screen with the mouse. This is kind of stupid for a lot of computer mice. The ball mice that were common at the time were a lot less responsive than laser mice, making this hard to do with a ball mouse. This section is practically unplayable with a trackball or trackpad, and on top of that, there's a glitch with this section on Windows 7 and up that doesn't give you enough points to advance. This is so broken I can barely believe it. You then go through a spell challenge with bottomless pits all over the place. I think Quirrell is trying to kill us a little too early. You collect challenge stars to earn house points, which are actually useless. You will always be behind Slytherin no matter what, and Dumbledore will always award Gryffindor with enough points to win at the end, just like in the book and movie. Oh well. In the Flipendo challenge, you also run into the first enemy, gnomes. They don't really do anything except for run around and steal your beans. Kinda lame. You are then sent to your Broomstick Lesson, where you have to fly through rings in sequence. Seem familiar? The broom controls are good enough, definitely better than the other versions of Sorcerer's Stone. You use the arrow keys to control the broom, and you can invert the vertical controls in the options menu. You also use the A and Z keys to speed up or slow down. It's extremely easy to get the highest grade and find the secret wizard card, even under a time limit. After finishing the lesson, you are given the option to do it again at any time on the main menu, but you probably won't want to anyway. You then go to Charms class, but you're early, so Hermione teaches you Alhambra, the unlocking charm. Hermione teaches you like the teachers do, even somehow awarding house points based on the broad assumption that Flitwick probably would if he was there. Sure you would, Hermione. Oh, this also contradicts the book, which says that only the school faculty and prefects can award or take away house points. You then go to Charms class and learn Wingardium Leviosa, the levitation charm, and go through a challenge with tons of bottomless pits again. Nothing new. You then exit into the second floor where Hermione, the plot hole Granger, sends you an owl nagging you to get to the herbology class. For the second time, Peeves is lying in wait trying to kill us again. There is a pretty funny glitch here where you can attack Peeves enough to finish the battle before the opening cutscene is done. Cool. As the game is peaking and being way too formulaic, Fred and George show up asking for beans and Hermione sends you another owl telling you to get to herbology again. This seems really weird when you think about it. Hermione is running back and forth between the herbology entrance and the owlery. Maybe you should get to the herbology class, Hermione! Then another stupidly easy boss fight. Malfoy shows up and throws firecrackers at you. You just have to pick him up and hit him 3 times. You're pathetic, Malfoy. Oh, we have to take a walk through Professor Sprout's garden? That should be relaxing. It seems like we should be worrying more about Professor Sprout than Quirrell. After nearly escaping death in her garden, we trade with Fred and George again. Next, we learn Incendio from Professor Sprout, who looks suspiciously like the Trunchbull from Matilda. Makes sense as she seems to hate children. We then go into a challenge where we kill some weeds, water some plants, and stun all the gnomes. Wait, is this lady just making me do her yard work? Professor Sprout, you're the worst. Neville and Malfoy show up and Neville tells us that Malfoy stole his Remember-All and Harry goes off to race Malfoy on Broomstick to get the Remember-All back. We obviously win because Malfoy sucks at everything. Professor McGonagall shows up and tells us that we're now on the Quidditch team despite not knowing anything about the actual game and are expected to be at the Quidditch pitch in like 2 hours. Next we go to see Hagrid, and along the way we run into this thing. Is that a turtle shooting fire out of its butt? We finally find Hagrid's hut and he has a turd in his fireplace. Oh, it's a dragon egg. And like every NPC in the game, Hagrid wants us to go and get something because he's too lazy to do it himself. He wants us to go into his cave gardens to find fire seeds to hatch the egg. Once again, there are piranha plants in the garden. After a while, Voldemort doesn't seem like too much of a threat anymore. We get the fire seeds given to Hagrid, the egg hatches, and Hagrid gives us a flute. Okay. After that, Hagrid sends us to the Quidditch pitch for our first game against Slytherin. Quidditch kinda sucks too, unfortunately. The controls are the same. You just use the control key to catch the snitch. None of the other players on your team can earn you any points and you can't lose. So whether you take 10 seconds or 10 minutes to beat the Quidditch game, you still move on. Hermione congratulates us on winning the Quidditch game that I couldn't even lose, and says that she and Ron heard strange noises coming from the newly installed Forbidden Corridor. You go upstairs, trade with Fred and George, and go to your Defense Against the Dark Arts class. This is the last class in the game, and you learn Lumos, which is supposed to basically be a flashlight spell. In this game, it makes platforms of light. Alright. You actually find a kid in the challenge who says that he's lost. I guess this kid has been eating the jelly beans to stay alive, and he's just going to die down here. The repetition is starting to slow down now.
Hey, Harry.
We then find Ron, who tells us that we have to get to potions class. You show up and Snape tells you to go and collect the potion ingredients in the most inefficiently organized storeroom ever. Snape just keeps the potion ingredients scattered around the Hogwarts dungeon. After getting out of the worst, most boring level in the game, we get stopped by Ron, who tells us that Hermione is about to be killed by a mountain troll in the girls' bathroom, and that, instead of telling an authority figure, we have to go and save her. In this section, you have to run towards the screen while avoiding numerous bottomless pits in the hallway floor. You think this would have come up at a faculty meeting or something, but nope, I guess Hogwarts couldn't care less about the safety of their students. Harry and Ron avoid the troll and run back into the hallway as if they forgot what they were going to the girls' bathroom for. They run back in, and Ron drops the troll's club on the troll's head so slowly that he's making the snails that we saw before look fast. After that, we get dragged into the second and final Quidditch match against Ravenclaw. Next, we get into my favorite part of the game, the stealth sections. We have to get up to the top of the North Tower to give Norbert, Hagrid's dragon, to Charlie Weasley's friends by going through the library. The only thing is that Filch, the caretaker, and his cat, Mrs. Norris, are patrolling the library, and we need to avoid them. It's pretty easy as Harry has the Invisibility Cloak. The only drawback with the Invisibility Cloak, however, is that you become visible when you cast spells, but even then this section is extremely easy. After you give Norbert to Charlie's friends, you have to sneak all the way back down the tower by a different route. Great. Though there is a funny thing you can do here. If you jump on the edge of the bridge and break a vase to get Filch to the other side of the room, you can unlock the door over here, which causes this.
Mrs. Norris, I could have sworn I heard footsteps in here, but... yeah, blah. Let's check the library, my sweet.
Amazing. After that, Fred and George show up for the last time and ask for 25 beans. We're at the final stretch of the game, so let's do it. Harry, Ron, and Hermione meet up in the common room and decide to go after Snape, who they suspect is trying to steal the Sorcerer's/Philosopher's Stone that night. Just remember that this is based completely off of tons of speculation. We get to one of the most annoying parts of the game as we try to put Fluffy the three-headed dog to sleep. Each head has to be put to sleep individually, and they all take different amounts of time to fall asleep and wake up. We fall into the Devil's Snare, where Ron and Hermione get trapped and Harry gets them out. After that, we stumble upon the giant enchanted chessboard. After defeating most of the pieces, Ron falls off and probably gets a concussion. Harry, of course, does all of the work by winning the chess game. In the next room, we get the potion challenge, which was cut out of the movie. In the book, it was a logic puzzle that showed how brilliant Hermione was and stuff, but in this game, not only does Harry do all of the work, but it's been watered down to a game of find the pea under the walnut shell. We win and move on to the final battle. We get up to this platform and have an extremely long opening cutscene to the battle. You have to knock the pillars onto Voldemort and then shoot him through the Mirror of Erised, and with that, the game is over. All in all, this game was pretty average as far as movie licensed games go. It's okay, but it's full of flaws and is extremely short. I finished the game almost 100% after 3 hours, and quite a bit of that time was spent working on a game-breaking glitch that wouldn't allow me to progress. This game can be beat in an afternoon. Come on, EA. If you're looking to play a game based on the first Harry Potter book, go for the PS1 version. Despite the less eye-catching graphics and the fact that the game is pretty short, it at least offers some challenge and originality. But there are better things to come for the PC, for The Boy Who Lived. Come back next time when we take a look at Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.